Victoria Hills is Chief Executive of the Royal Town Planning Institute. She was previously Chief Executive of the Old Oak and Park Royal Development Corporation, and before that was Head of Transport for the Greater London Authority. So Victoria, the consultation has just ended on the planning white paper, Planning for the Future. Can I just ask start by asking, I mean, how do you approach a consultation like this, which actually sort of dismantles the system that created you as an organisation in the first place?
Well, firstly, Peter, thank you very much for the opportunity to come along and talk about this really important topic on behalf of the planning profession. And also just to note, of course, we were delighted to see that Dame Alison Nimmo, one of our Chartered Town Planners, indeed winner of our gold medal, has just been announced by the NLA as new Londoner of the Year. So really, what a delight that was to learn. Now, interestingly, the RTPI was actually around for over 30 years before the Town and Country Planning Act of 1947. And so the RTPI, as you know, was created to help formulate and support the profession of town planners back in 1913, 1914. So if you like, the system that's been around, yes, it's been around for some time, shall we say. It's a discretionary system. It's worked over the last century to protect many of our great places and spaces that we now enjoy and absolutely treasure, all the more so in this lockdown that we find ourselves in. And the system that we have in place now is one that has evolved over the years, many changes. In 2011, we had some big changes come through. And what we're seeing in the white paper is, rather than dismantling it, what we see is actually recognition of the important role that town planning and planners are going to play in the green recovery, in supporting the government's ambitions to build back better, to level up, or whatever other soundbite you want to give to it. But we can actually see that there's a recognition here that planning is not being thrown out. Indeed, many people's interpretations, we're going to need to focus planning and planners on delivering some detailed substance that's within this. Beauty is one of it, but there are many other assets or facets, within it. And what we think is that there's likely to be some incremental changes with this. I mean, let's not beat around the bush. There are some big changes proposed within the white paper, but these are not going to happen overnight. They're going to need some pretty heavy lifting on primary legislation. They're going to need to win some hearts and minds of not necessarily the profession, although that would be nice, but also of the broader political landscape. Let's just put it like that, because there's lots of rumblings out there and backbenchers of all political persuasions, some of them happy, some of them not so happy with what's on the table. And so we actually see more of a cultural change here for some of the propositions that are proposed. I'm sure we'll get onto it, but we've been used to having this discretionary system in the UK for 70, 80 years. A step away from that, particularly within the renewal zones, is going to be a big thing that's going to take quite a long time. We've said we want to work with government on that. But in the meantime, it's really important that we keep the show on the road and that we don't down tools and wait for this big change to come in, because let's face it, with a fair wind, we may have some legislation laid in the House by the end of 21, but really we're talking about 2022, and we've got so much we need to get on and do now. So we're talking about a portfolio approach, if you like, to planning change. Yes, let's work for these big changes in the future, but let's keep the show on the road now.
And you suggest that the key reason behind the problems with the current system is lack of investment in planning authorities, and ask for 500 million over the next 4 years. I mean, is that realistic in the present situation, do you think?
Well, our own research has shown that 40% of local planning authority budgets have been have had 40% cuts over the last 10 years. We're a professional body that represents private and public sector. I speak to landowners, I speak to developers, everybody says the same thing. Unless planning services work, nothing works. I speak regularly with the construction industry, they say the same as well. In fact, planning has never been so close to the broader built environment sectors as it is now, everybody gets the need to keep things going, having people to talk to, progress schemes, move things forward, get conditions discharged, agreements in place, etc., etc., etc. All of that needs resource. Now, if you strip back to the bone, particularly in local plans, which is the worst hit area, and that is a fact, then it's really hard for people to have the confidence that local authorities are going to be able to step up to help deliver the green recovery. And it's not for want of trying, it's just for the want of the resources that just simply aren't there. Now, yes, it's an ambitious comprehensive spending review. We've heard that the date now is confirmed, I think the 27th, 28th of November, which is very exciting. We've set the stall out very clearly. This isn't a nice to have. This is a need to have. Local authorities are at the coalface of this pandemic. They are stretched in all sorts of ways they don't want to be stretched on at the moment. And they have to deliver on those services to communities. But also we need to be putting in place the foundations to build for the future. So our business case, Invest and Prosper, we had Vivid Economics do that for us, is really clear on the benefits of investing in planning. This isn't a just throw new money at old rope. This is, you put money in and you will grow your economy locally. You will deliver on the ambitions for your local community. So yes, it's perhaps an old message, but we've revamped that message and made it really clear in Treasury speak as to why this investment is one that cannot be ignored and is needed now.
So you also say that communities, and I think quite rightly, should have a more meaningful voice in the future of their area as plans are made, and that the scale of this task within the 30-month timescale set out shouldn't be underestimated. But how do you get local communities really interested in local plans at that early stage, as they really need to be in the as far as the white paper sets out the process? I mean, isn't it only when they see development actually happening that they really get engaged?
Well, this is the point I made earlier about cultural change. It has been traditionally quite tricky to engage communities in things that might not be happening for 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the line. And actually for some sites, they get permission, they could be 5, 10, 15, 20-year build out. Some of the people who are going to live in those places aren't even born yet. So it's always been quite tricky to do it. But what we have seen, if you like, is that privatization of the engagement that's been led by the developer end, quite rightly so, engaging on large sites, socializing what they're trying to do. The stripping back and hollowing out of resources and local authorities means you're back to the statutory minimum of what you can do with a local plan to get your Reg 18 and Reg 19 over the line. Now, if you're investing in those teams properly, if you're employing, one of our proposals in the white paper is community planners, so technically trained planners, but who are there working alongside with the community, taking them on that story and that capacity enhancement within the authority. We're not talking about parachuting people in and out. We're talking about creating capacity at a local level. Then I think you can have a more genuine conversation with people about the future, because they know those people are going to be there as you move into the future. What local communities have complained about in the past is where they have a really intense conversation about something that's going to happen, for example, with a promoter of a site, who then, through no fault of their own, through their own business model or whatever, sells the site on, and somebody else is left holding the baby, for want of a better expression. And then the conversation starts all over again. The community says, you know what, forget about it. What they really need to do is have someone holding the ring on that with the corporate memory at the local level. It can be done. We haven't been doing it as well as we would like to over the last couple of decades because the resources haven't been there to do it. And it's really hard for local authorities to make that case to a chief finance officer within a local authority why they should be chucking a lot of money at a local plan as opposed to another part of the local authority, such as adult social care, for example. So in making that case to Treasury through Invest and Prosper, we are setting out that investment that's needed to deliver on these ambitions. We think it's really important to involve communities. We thought that anyway. We've been saying it for years. Everyone now knows it's true because we're all stuck at home, working, living in our community, looking out the windows, watching what's going on. It's time to see the area in a different way, walking around and rediscovering it, or even discovering new places. And I think that's great. The community have got this opportunity. There's not too many things out of the pandemic that we can take heart in, but having that reawakening, if you like, with your community and the local environment is an opportunity here. And we need to capitalise now on that sweet spot through some investment in local authorities to get out and do that work. Otherwise, perhaps we'll have a bit of a disenfranchised local community, and thinking once again it's happening to them rather than with them.
But the white paper makes a lot of digitization. Will that actually provide the tools to get local communities involved, do you think?
Well, it's part of the solution, and we've been a big advocate of digital planning, plan tech, hashtag plan tech, as we coined, not to be outdone by prop tech or fintech or other techs, but indeed we signed an agreement with what was then Futurist Catapult last year to work together on it. And we know that it has had an impact just for, I mean, it may not be the most exciting thing in the world, but some of the planning inquiries and also planning committees numbers that are coming through in terms of people that virtually attended these meetings that would never have usually done so. It's been phenomenal, but it isn't a silver bullet. It's part of a package. And I always draw upon the experience I had when I was at Old Oak. Some of the best community engagement we did was physical events. We put on an afternoon tea party one Saturday afternoon. Community had never known anything like it, and they loved it. We did mince pies at Christmas. They were coming in and talking about planning. They just didn't see it like that. It wasn't, you know, this is a planning workshop, but it was a planning workshop because we were talking about what they wanted for their community. So I think you've got to have a blended approach. And, you know, it does require rolling up the sleeves and actually engaging and talking with people as well. Many of us planners and those watching this will recognise, you know, a soggy Saturday afternoon in some community centre somewhere, but actually pay real dividends to have people talking. So hopefully we'll have that part of it as well. But the digital aspect has, of course, broadened the opportunity for people to join meetings, particularly those that perhaps couldn't get out in an evening for childcare reasons or caring responsibilities. Can now zoom into a planning committee. That can only be a good thing for public scrutiny. So we definitely want to see more investment in that, and that's also part of our business case to Treasury.
Now, you welcome the government's proposal that each authority should appoint a chief officer for design and placemaking, and recommend that the role of chief officer for design and placemaking should be filled by a chartered planner. Isn't that a job for an architect?
Well, listen, we all know, those of us planners all know that, you know, planners are well suited to the role, as I'm sure many architects are as well. You know, the degree level training that we offer in wider placemaking, those collaborative, softer skills, interpersonal communication skills, these are all things that planners do extremely well. And I'm sure many other colleagues that cross the built environment professions do as well. And I think we don't really want to get into a big debate as to, you know, who's the right person for the job, because local circumstances will dictate that. It's more about the skills that are brought to that placemaking function. Now, clearly, you know, we made a big push with the Building Better, Building Beautiful Commission on this point, and we were delighted that their recommendation then manifested itself in the white paper. We all know that design is going to be huge within local authorities. The opportunity to reverse the hollowing out of design expertise is a great one that I think we all want to embrace. And what we've said is we'll work with government to help them address that. We have a big announcement coming next week, actually, of someone we're going to work with to help on this. But I'm afraid I can't tell you who yet, but it will be coming out. Week commencing the 9th of November, we'll have an announcement on that. So watch this space. But I don't think we want to get parochial. Of course, we say that planners are well placed to do it, but it really will be up for local places to decide how they want to do it. But the main thing is there's a chief placemaker at the top table in local government, and that's a really important thing, because that's putting the kind of people, place, and all of those spatial aspects, whether it's net zero, delivering on beauty, delivering on infrastructure, all of that, bringing it together. It's a really, really welcome recommendation from the government, and I think we'll all look forward to seeing those chief placemakers in place.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. So Victoria Hills, thank you very much for your insights, and good luck with the consultation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Peter. Bye-bye.